Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tudo Koyani. Welcome to 2025. We are now into 2025. I hope 2025 for every one of us becomes a better year than 2024. I hope you're all ready for it. If you're not ready for it, you better just get ready. This is the first day of the month, and this is the first day of the year. Just get going. Don't you wait until it is March, April, and start, putting your plans into place. You must hit the road running. Start with the year. The best time to start is the very first day of the year. So where are we going today? Yesterday I promised that we'll be looking at the economic freedom fighters. You might be wondering, where is he going this now? He's always been telling us about Senzo Meyiwa. I said this channel is not a Senzo Meyiwa channel. And what a better time to start diversifying and going into other areas of our lives, because our life is not just around in and around the coast. Our lives, spans many faces, across the spectrum of our lives. There are so many things that we have to cover and look into. And I'm now bringing you news analysis with a political flavor. Why politics? Politics, affects every aspect of our life. You cannot just ignore politics. Like them or lump them, politics are part of your life. Politicians are a reality in our lives, and we have to, follow them and know what it is that they are all about, what they are up to, because at the end of the day, the decisions that politicians make in one way or another are going to affect you. So that is just how important politics is. I would like to kickstart the year with looking at the EFF and this interesting person called Julius Malema. Let me begin by saying this channel does not look at, it's not aimed at, condemning or being unnecessarily critical of what politicians are doing. Neither are we here to promote any agenda of any political party. I'm not here to promote any agenda of any political party. I am just looking at, happenings in and around political parties in South Africa when I get into the issue of politics and what they are doing and what they are up to, because, like I said earlier on, this is definitely going to impact in one way or another into our lives, into our daily lives. Now, let me look at Julius Malema. Julius Malema is a very interesting character for me. He's a very young man in his early 40s now. I think Malema was born around 1981, 82, somewhere there. And I cannot be mistaken, it is either 81, 82. So he's a very young man. As a politician, he's extremely young because, some of the politicians that we have are in their late 60s, 70s, going right up to into their 80s. So Malema began his career, as a very fiery sort of character. He's always been, that sort of in-your-face person. He has always spoken his mind about things. The one thing that I've admired about the man is that he never beats about the bush. He calls a spade a spade. Like him or Lampi, Malema will always say what he wants to say whenever he wants to say it. Sometimes, of course, in inappropriate forums or in a rather, abrasive manner, but he will always say what he wants to say. So the EFF was formed just a little over 10 years ago. I think they just recently had their 10th anniversary. And it was formed after Malema was expelled from the ANC. Malema, Zuma just couldn't handle Malema. So they ended up deciding that, no, Malema was a hot potato, because Malema was too assertive. He was a young, assertive man. Can you imagine how old he was some 10 years back? He was in his early 30s. But he was already making a huge impact on the political scene as the president of the ANC Youth League. So after several run-ins with Jacob Zuma, I remember on one occasion telling Zuma that if you are going to be like Mbeki, you are going to give them Mbeki treatment. Remember how Mbeki was, bundled out of the party in 2007 at the Polokwane conference. I think that was the last straw for Zuma. And so the decision was taken to expel Malema from the ANC, and the rest is history. So immediately after he was expelled, he left the ANC with a few loyalists like Shibambu and a few others. And after he left, he then formed the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF. Nobody gave him a chance. I frankly said to myself, look at Cope. Where did Cope go after he split from the ANC? I thought forming another political party, I want to be honest with you, was a fatal mistake on his part at the time. But no, Julius Malema would never be deterred by this. He continued with his, leftist politics, his confrontational style of politics, his black liberation. He really believes that, South Africa is not what, the forefathers of our liberation wanted to be. We have not reached, that place, that golden era, which everybody has been looking forward to, a South Africa where, there's equality, a South Africa in which the lives of the black people has improved and so on. Malema formed the EFF, and the EFF, positioned itself very well in South African politics, such that by 2019, the party had made such an impact that it became the third largest party in South African politics. In only a space of 5 years, Malema had built the EFF into a formidable force. Come 2019, he came third in the national elections of 2019. We saw how, he continued to that confrontational style of his. In parliament, the EFF was very, disruptive at times, but he was out to challenge the status quo. Sometimes I did not agree with him entirely about the tactics that he was employing, but he was really making out, carving out a niche for himself in South African politics. And post 2019, I think nobody could now ignore Malema. Malema was, a formidable force in South African politics, and you couldn't just ignore him, no matter how much you hated him. So the ANC, the EFF, rather, I nearly said the ANC. I'm talking about the Economic Freedom Fighters. So the Economic Freedom Fighters grew by leaps and bounds. It grew by leaps and bounds, and after 2019, in the run-up to the 2024 election, we saw it attract huge, crowds to Israelis. Remember that FNB, rally where they filled, FNB to the rafters. Everybody was shocked, and everybody was saying, this is Julius. This is the real Julius in motion now. He really looked like a possible candidate for the presidency at that time. Or he looked like he was there, or well, as an alternative, he looked like, he was destined to be somewhere in government with some other political party. So then it was that we moved to 2024, and when you got to 2024, the party was seemingly still on the rise. It was still on the rise, and a lot of political observers were saying, well, you watch the EFF and see where it is going. So Malema pushed his, land reform policies. Malema is adamant that, there must be, land must be repossessed without any compensation, right? There's no need to compensate land which was stolen from the black people. That is one of the cardinal pillars of the EFF, that, the land must be restored to the people. So we came to the 2024 election, and the 2024 election gave us, the outcome that we are now sitting with. And unfortunately for Malema, I saw the party come forth. I don't know whether this was the impact of the MK coming onto the scene, but the reality of it is the EFF then came fourth in the general election of May 2024, which was a slump for it, because one would have expected that, it would move into position 2 at the very least it would move into position 2. So Malema now stands at position 4 on the South African political scene. The party has somewhat declined, but a lot of developments also took place in and around the party. After the formation of the MK, Malema has made the MK his number one enemy. He's on record and saying, the MK is his number one enemy, and there's just no way he's going to reconcile with that party. And for the following reasons, a lot of key people in the EFF, that Malema was relying upon. Look at Fred Shibambu. Remember that press conference that they called with Malema to announce Shivambu's resignation. I've never seen anything like that. They called a press conference at which Shivambu, announced his, departure from the EFF. Like I'm saying, I've never seen anything of the sort happen. Usually when people leave political parties, they'll just make statements somewhere, and basically that's it. A visibly distraught Malema at that press conference said, even likened it, to the passing away of his own mother. So it was a huge blow that Shibambu left the party. But true to form, Malema just kept on shouldering on. We saw others leave. We have seen, Dalim Pofu leave the EFF. We have seen Busisiwe Mkhwebane leave the EFF. So he has suffered quite a number of blows post the May 24 election up to where we are now. There were rumors that Ndlozi was his own way out. I think Ndlozi has got one foot in the EFF and another foot outside the EFF, because he's seemingly in a very precarious situation, because I think the chemistry between him and Malema is not what it used to be. There's that element of distrust on the part of Malema, whether he can still trust Ndlozi. But Ndlozi is still there. But let me tell you something. I mean, you may not entirely agree with the policies of the EFF, but the one thing that we cannot ignore is that the EFF is a political force in South Africa. And the EFF is here to stay. But that is decline. I was worried about, why they would fill stadiums like, F&B and then perform rather poorly if those crowds that were, filling up the stadiums were anything to go by. Do people fill up stadiums and not vote? Is it possible? Or what happened to all those people who were voting for Malema? I mean, sorry, those people who were filling up the stadiums and, making the party look like it was a huge player in the elections. But be that as it may, Malema has said, there are people who knew, for instance, give you an example of how the men operates like. He says there are people who knew that Shivambu had intentions of leaving the EFF, and they never told him. So Malema says that is disloyalty, So probably there were people who, who were disloyal to him, who turned up in those rallies and, ended up not voting. But, for a man who started out the way he started just a little over 10 years ago, we must all give credit to Malema. Nobody of his generation has done something of the sort. He has built up this party to be a formidable force in South African politics, and he was very disappointed when the ANC decided to go into the GNU with, the DA and the IFP, because for him, it was a betrayal of the black people, of the black struggle, like he put it, to go into bed with, parties like the DA. So Malema is still optimistic that some deal can be struck with the ANC, and if the ANC perhaps should so wish to move away from the GNU, which seems to be highly unlikely. But there you have it. Personally, now Malema has run into personal problems. Personal problems are a very, delicate sort of situation to go into. We know that now he's getting estranged from his wife. The way those Instagram messages and pictures which were removed, and the wife also removed his. Those problems between. But on the face of it, it looks like a divorce is pending, because. Well, we'll see when the matter comes up to court. I think their relationship has somehow irretrievably broken down. And if they come to court, this is probably one of the reasons one of them will put before the court that, well, my relationship with my spouse has broken down irretrievably, and I will have nothing to do with this marriage anymore. So Malema has had a very, tumultuous year. It has been a very, 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 it was elections. He came fourth in the elections. Now he's having his personal problems with his wife, and it has been a very, troubling year for him. But the one thing that I know about Malema is, he's been saying, let them all go. Those who want to go, let them all go. He has shown a lot of resilience. I saw this resilience in him as a much younger man when he left the ANC. He was resilient. People were writing him off, but he stood his ground and built up the party. So I think he's going to survive this one because the message that he sends out there resonates largely with black people. Malema sort of talks a language they want to hear. Well, whether that translates into votes is something else. It's something else. You look at the May election and you can make your own conclusions. But he certainly has a following, and in the townships, Malema is still very, very popular. Still very, very popular because he is seen as a figure that identifies with the ordinary man in the township. In the townships, who has not seen much change since 1994. Look at our townships. I don't see much of an improvement from 1994 to now. They are pretty much what they used to be. So his messaging, political messaging resonates with a lot of people in the townships, the majority of whom are black people. Having said that, I hope that this is, this is welcome news for you. This diversification. We are not just going to look into politics. We are going to take up other issues as and when they come along, because the daily fix was intended to look at topical issues, things of interest to my viewers, and so on and so forth. Be they legal, political, social, economic. I would always try and bring you news analysis that you'll not get on any other channel in South Africa. So please continue to support this initiative in 2025. I look forward to those subscriptions which are flowing in a very satisfactory manner, and so are the subscriptions. Please continue to support this initiative and let us grow this initiative and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. Thank you and Happy New Year.